What's that?
They must have done some kind of update for that driver to keep popping up every time you turn the computer.
Yeah, except only the tech people can actually do the updates around here. So I'd be happy to do that if I could.
Usually get that way with Firefox. Always pops up. You haven't used this one. I'm pretty sure it's
I know. So how is everybody? Cool. So we left off last time with sort of halfway through the lecture. So I'm going to finish up that lecture, and then we'll do a review session for next week's exam. And that's it for the day.
What day is the exam? Is that Monday or Wednesday?
The exam will be Wednesday. Okay, so last time we went through sort of customer analysis, getting information from your target customers, how to fill out a customer vignette like this. Then we went through market sizing and how to figure out how many other customers there are out there like the ones that you surveyed. And then we stopped at generic competitive strategy. So I'm going to pick up there and finish this lecture briefly before going on to the review session. So generic competitive strategy is basically your overall positioning for how you're going to compete in your marketplace. And in general, that can be either competing on cost or competing on differentiation. If you're competing on cost, there's two different options that you have. One is to use your low-cost edge to underprice competitors and increase your market share. The second option is to maintain your price, be content with your market share, not gain more market share, and use your lower cost edge to have a higher profit margin for each unit you sell. So Walmart is a good example of passing on low costs to customers. Robert Half, the headhunting company that I used to work for, is a good example of the second strategy. We didn't have any lower prices than any of our competitors. We were just the same as the rest of the competition, but we had huge economies of scale and scope when it came to the databases that we had to keep track of candidates and keep track of all of our customers. So we had very low costs per transaction, but we didn't actually pass those on to the buyers. We kept those as high returns. So two different ways of doing low cost. A differentiation strategy is basically one that you use whenever buyers' needs and preferences are too diverse to be satisfied by a standard product. You incorporate differentiating features that cause buyers to prefer your product over rivals. But the key here is not to spend more on achieving differentiation than the price premium that customers are willing to pay. So you encounter this a lot in Globus. If any of you have tried to go with a really, really high quality camera, At a certain point, all that's doing is eating into your profits because the marketplace is not willing to pay more than a certain price for cameras. So, the important thing to realize in differentiation, it's great to have like the best mousetrap in the world, but it's only profitable to have the best mousetrap in the world if people are willing to pay for it. So, in your textbook, and relevant for not this exam but the next exam, there are some other competitive strategies besides just low cost, and there's nuances besides just low cost and differentiation. There's broad or overall low cost, or broad or overall differentiation, and focused differentiation or focused low cost. So a good example of broad differentiation is Apple. Apple is not the cheapest product in the world, but they appeal to markets everywhere. They're not just trying to get tech geeks or whatever. And overall low cost, a good example of that is Walmart. A good example of focused differentiation is a company like Bombardier. They make private corporate jets, so they have very high quality products, and they're focused on a very particular market. It's also possible to have low cost but focus just on a specific niche of the market rather than the whole broad market. And finally, it is possible to combine elements of both and have relatively low prices or relatively low costs, but also offer some differentiating features. So there's really 5 competitive strategies when you get to the nuances, but in terms of this class, the only thing that is important for your case paper is whether the company is competing on cost or whether they're competing on differentiation. So we'll get to the case template in a second, but some actions that cost leadership companies can take: standardizing their product, focusing on economies of scale with high fixed costs and very, very low variable costs. You can focus on low input costs or low costs from your suppliers. Efficient scale for your facilities, so similar to economies of scale. You can invest heavily in technology. For those of you who are investing more in R&D in Globus, you'll find that as the game goes on, your costs get lower and lower because you invested so much in R&D at the beginning of the game. So, tip for anybody out there that hasn't invested a lot in R&D yet: if you do, by the end of the game, you'll reap the benefits of that. Mechanistic feedback, strong control, and low prices. This is a nice overview chart. I talked about cheat sheets that are useful to take away from this class. This is another one that's useful, just highlighting all of the areas where you could find cost savings and cost advantages in the value chain of the organization. So in the support functions, you could manage financial resources in a particularly frugal way. You can develop efficient hiring and retention practices to keep your costs low. You can develop very cost-effective information systems. You can develop really effective relationships with your suppliers. You can build economies of scale. You can use low-cost distribution methods. You can really target and focus your advertising and your marketing. And you can make sure that your customer service is very efficient on the tail end of the value chain. Differentiation strategies, the actions to take there: really invest heavily in the customer relationship. Make your constant compensation for employees based on satisfaction. rather than achievement. You can focus on really high quality inputs from your suppliers. You can really make your delivery and distribution quick and customized. Investing in basic research. There's R&D which creates high quality, and there's R&D which creates low costs. So R&D is also an effective strategy for differentiation. Subjective feedback, or organic control, and higher prices. The same way I went through this map for low cost, you can go through this map and think about differentiation as well. So you can make long-term investments in technology and innovative products with your finance operations. You can recruit really, really high qualified employees in your human resources operations. You can really invest heavily in cutting edge information systems. You can really invest heavily in your relationships with suppliers. You can focus your operations on high quality products rather than economies of scale. You can provide really customized, like we talked about before in the last slide, customized distribution options. You can invest heavily in your marketing, and you can have really specially trained, high quality customer service with a person on the phone constantly rather than a machine. That's another way to invest heavily in a differentiation strategy. So your case analysis template is a little bit simpler than what I just went through in the slides. If we scroll down, past internal analysis and past the beginning, well, we'll start here again for a second. So last class session, we talked about filling out this chart with interviews of target customers in each of the segments that your company is focused on. Then we pick one segment here and fill this out to determine how many other customers there are out there in the world, like the customer you profiled in the segmentation here. And then generic competitive strategy is going to take those three segments again. So I think we talked about LG last time, right? So we talked about TVs, utility or appliances and phones. So do you feel like LG competes on cost? Do they have really low prices, or do they have differentiated products? Okay. And why do you think that is, Sean?
Mainly just because there are so many others that are considerably lower cost.
There are a considerable number of TVs which are lower. Okay. So lower price than LG. Therefore, we have determined that they compete on differentiation in this segment. Then you're going to do the same thing for appliances, same thing for phones, and you're done. So that is how you'll fill out the case analysis template for generic competitive strategy. Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward. Okay, so with that, I'm going to shift gears and do a review session for our first exam. So the first exam covers chapters 1 through 3 in your textbook. There's going to be a question about LinkedIn in there as well, about the types of connections. There's going to be a question in there about business model, which is something I brought into the slides, not really in your textbook. There's going to be several questions about the handbrake model. So for that, you're going to want to look at the slides for the introduction to the class. Lecture slide number 1. Take a look at that for the handbrake model. And for vision, mission, and goals, there's going to be several questions about vision, mission, and goals on the exam. There will be several questions on key success factors. There'll be questions on SWOT analysis. There will be questions on Porter's 5 forces, including how Porter's 5 forces functions as an overall snapshot of the industry in time. There's going to be questions on driving forces, and each of those 7 areas of driving forces that we talked about in the slides and that are also in your textbook. There's going to be questions on competencies, core competencies, and distinctive competencies. And there will be a few questions on VRIO, the valuable, rare, hard to imitate, and well organized resource-based view of the firm questions. The last part? There's going to be a few questions on the VRIO acronym and how to use that tool. So whether the resources of a company are valuable, rare, hard to imitate, and whether the company is well organized to take advantage of them. So there's going to be both, I think there's about 30, let me see here. I've got the exam sitting in front of me on my laptop. No. There are 29 regular multiple choice questions, and then there's an additional 21 questions which you read a couple paragraphs of a description of a business situation, and then you answer multiple choice questions based on the text that you read. So a couple things that may not have been clear in the lectures or may not be clear in the book that I want to point out. Strategies in business are on a 5 to 10 year horizon, not longer, not shorter. Objectives are particularly important internally for employees in the organization to know where the organization is going and to all be on the same page. And the concept of strategic groups, which is covered in your textbook, but I didn't cover in the lectures very much. Strategic groups are very similar to the PQ rating groups in Globus. So it's companies that have similar pricing, similar product features that occupy a similar place in the market. So that's what a strategic group is a group of companies who all are competing for the same part of a particular market. Okay? That's the main stuff I wanted to go over. I'm going to scroll through here. So LinkedIn, I talked about. Business model, I talked about. Overall questions about strategy. Handbrake model questions. Vision statement question. Mission statement question. Question about SWOT. Key success factors. Objectives. Porter's 5 forces, driving forces, more questions about Porter's 5 forces, strategic groups, like I just talked about. Core competencies, distinctive competencies. More questions about Porter's 5 forces. And then mission and vision and objectives. And in general, there's a few questions just about reading comprehension. So if you read the text that's in the exam effectively, then you'll be able to answer some of the questions as well that are not particularly. Yes.
I'm sorry. What did you say about the LinkedIn? What did you want to know about that?
The types of connections. Let's see here. Some questions about overall industry characteristics. So kind of a combination between Porter's 5 forces and driving forces. More about key success factors. More about SWOT. More about vision and mission. More about Hambrick again. Questions about differentiation in the Hambrick sense, not necessarily differentiation in the generic competitive strategy sense. Well, differentiation as a generic competitive strategy, there's a question in here about that too. And then more questions about SWOT and key success factors. That brings us through all the questions in the exam. So it's only 10:30, but I'm actually done, Deborah. Yeah, it's 50 questions, 50 minutes. To tell you the truth, this is the first time I've done it in a 50. First time I've done it in a 50 minute class, but the other class that's this afternoon is also going to have just 50 minutes, so it's going to be the same for everybody. You'll be fine.
Just make it all extra credit.
You'll be fine if. No. It's not short answer. It's all multiple choice. You just have to
You got to read the passage.
read a couple of texts. It'll be challenging, but you'll do okay. And the other group, the other class has the same restrictions that you do. Yes, Deborah. Huh? What the study guide is what I just talked about right now. So I recorded this session. You can go back and listen to the session as well, but the notes that you took here function as your study guide. Other questions? You'll be fine.
You know, to include Globus questions?
No Globus questions. But as we've done for the last couple of class sessions, Friday is going to be for Globus questions again. So, or any questions. If you have questions about the exam, if you have questions about your case paper, Friday's class session will be me available to answer questions. Okay? That's it.
Have you read all the professional development plans?
No.
No?
I'm going to start. I've read them and made some notes to myself on what your guys' interests are, but I haven't actually done
Have you
markups yet.
gotten yet?
Yes.
Because like I put down like I'm getting a new job soon, so I recently got it this morning actually. So like
The new job?
yeah.
Cool. Hang on.
So do you want me to change or just get that fine?
Yeah.
You were going to do a bachelor's in kinesiology and become a physical therapist, right? And you got a physical therapist job?
No, for stream.
Okay, cool. Cool.
It's like I'm in the same industry, but like
Okay, so not the golf course anymore?
well I'll still work there, but like I'm not making minimum wage anymore, which is cool.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah, it's
Also
like-
a personal
Yeah.
trainer.
So like,
Okay,
it's like,
cool. Congratulations. Yes.
Hello, Professor.
Hi. Good.
I just send you the cover letter and the assignment. I know because I didn't get the homework done on time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah. So my cover letter and the assignment.
Mm-hmm. When did you send it to me?
Just now.
Oh, my laptop's not connected to the internet right now.
Cover letter.
I haven't gotten it yet.
You didn't get it?
No, not yet.
Okay. And I have another issue.
Okay, what's the other issue?
You didn't send me the code for the global value.
Oh, that's important. Yeah, hang on.